Just smile. My cameras are everywhere. Ryan's whisper brushed against her ear as the flashes exploded like lightning around them. Their hands were locked, their faces close, and the world believed every second of it. The crowd cheered. Phones lifted high. Confetti rained from the ceiling of the grand ballroom, but behind their perfect smiles was the truth. Neither dared to speak. This wedding was a lie. Maya's heart pounded beneath the heavy lace of her gown. The white roses smelled too sweet, too artificial, just like everything about this night. Ryan turned toward the crowd, his arm wrapped around her waist like he'd done it 1,000 times before. The man looked effortlessly confident, the billionaire entrepreneur every magazine adored. But Maya knew the tension hiding in the way his fingers slightly trembled against her skin. This wasn't love, this was a deal. 3 weeks earlier, she'd been nothing but a struggling event designer, hired to plan one of Ryan's company galas. She never expected to be standing beside him, wearing a diamond ring worth more than her entire life savings. But when Ryan's ex-fiancée, Leela Harrington, the daughter of a powerful investor, had leaked a false rumor that he was a fraud, everything spiraled out of control. His company's biggest contract was on the line. His reputation shattered overnight. That's when the idea of the fake wedding was born, a distraction, a headline-shifting miracle. Ryan needed to show the world he was stable, committed, trustworthy, and nothing screamed trustworthy like a fairy tale wedding to a sweet, innocent nobody. Maya had been in the wrong place at the wrong time, or maybe the right place depending on how you looked at it. She'd overheard a conversation, offered a quick solution for an emergency PR crisis, and somehow, she became the solution. Now, as the camera flashes softened and the orchestra began to play, Ryan leaned closer, brushing his lips near hers, not quite touching, but close enough for the illusion to melt into reality. The guests gasped, the media captured the perfect shot, and Maya, she felt something she couldn't explain. He pulled away slowly, looking into her eyes for just a second too long. "You're doing great," he murmured, the practiced smile never fading. "Just part of the contract," she replied, her tone steady but her pulse racing. Later, when the guests had scattered and the grand ballroom echoed with silence, Maya slipped off her heels and sank into one of the velvet chairs. Ryan loosened his tie, tossing his jacket onto a table. The two of them sat in silence, the weight of what they'd just done hanging in the air. "This doesn't feel real," Maya said quietly. "It's not supposed to," Ryan replied, but even he didn't sound convinced. The deal was simple. 6 months. She'd play the perfect wife for the cameras, events, interviews, charity galas, and business dinners. In return, Ryan would pay her enough to save her failing event company and settle her father's medical bills. It sounded transactional, professional, but the moment their lives began to intertwine, everything became messy. The next morning, the fake couple woke to trending hashtags and viral videos of their magical wedding. The internet was obsessed. Hashtag Ryan and Maya forever flooded every platform. News anchors called it the most unexpected love story of the year. Ryan's stock value soared. His investors were back. The plan worked perfectly, but perfection had a price. Maya's phone buzzed non-stop. Strangers sent messages congratulating her. Old friends from college suddenly wanted to reconnect. Paparazzi followed her to the cafe, the gym, even her own apartment. Ryan's PR manager insisted she move into his penthouse for authenticity. It made sense, but the thought of living with a man she barely knew, pretending to love him, terrified her. That night, standing in the marble hallway outside his suite, she hesitated. Ryan opened the door before she could knock. "You don't have to look so nervous," he said, smiling faintly. "This is just business, right?" she said, forcing a laugh. Just business. The penthouse was a world she'd never known. Glass walls overlooking the skyline. Sleek furniture, a scent of expensive cologne lingering in the air. He showed her the guest room where she'd stay, the joint closet for paparazzi-approved photos, and even a schedule of their public appearances. Every move was planned, every smile rehearsed. But what wasn't he planned was the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't he, watching, softer, uncertain, almost vulnerable. Over the next few weeks, their fake marriage became a performance neither could escape. Interviews, photo shoots, dinners with investors, every moment felt like walking a tightrope. But behind the cameras, cracks began to show. Ryan worked late nights, often returning home exhausted. Maya would find him asleep on the couch, tie loosened, documents scattered around. She started leaving tea by his side, a small gesture she never thought he'd notice. But one night he did. "You didn't have to do that," he said, voice low, eyes meeting hers. "I know," she said softly, "but you looked like you needed it." Something changed after that. The air between them wasn't so cold anymore. Then came the charity event, the one that would make or break Ryan's image. They arrived hand in hand, cameras flashing as always. Lila was there too, smiling that cruel, perfect smile, still playing pretend. "Ryan," she whispered as she passed. Maya's grip on his arm tightened, and Ryan, for the first time, pulled her close protectively. "Don't listen to her," he said afterward. But Maya could see something in his eyes, a shadow of pain or regret. She didn't ask, not yet. Later that night, after the event ended, they found themselves alone again, but this time not in silence. "Why her?" Maya asked suddenly. Ryan looked away. "She was part of my world," he said. "The part I thought I needed. And what about now?" He paused. "Now, I don't know." The tension was sharp but fragile, like the edge of a confession neither of them was ready to make. Days turned into weeks. The line between fake and real blurred faster than either expected. Ryan started to notice the way Maya laughed, the way she wasn't too impressed by his money but genuinely cared about the people he ignored. She started to see that beneath the polished arrogance, he was someone trying desperately to prove himself. And just when it started feeling almost real, something shattered it all. A leaked photo. Maya alone, crying on the balcony, captioned, "Even perfect marriages have cracks." It wasn't true. She hadn't posted it. But by morning, it was everywhere. The comments were brutal. Was it all fake? Trouble in paradise? Ryan's PR team panicked. Investors called. Paparazzi camped outside. He confronted her, voice cold, eyes distant. "Did you post it?" "No. Why would I?" "Because this whole thing benefits you more than me, doesn't it?" Her heart broke at the accusation. "You really think I'd ruin the only thing keeping my life together?" Ryan hesitated. "I don't know what to think anymore." The silence between them was louder than any argument. The line they'd carefully drawn between fake and real love suddenly blurred into something dangerous. The next morning, headlines exploded again, this time worse. He missed her, not the actress in his fake love story, but her. Ryan froze. The number was attached to a location outside the city, an abandoned warehouse. His chest tightened. Ryan's car sped through the rain, headlights cutting across the deserted highway. The city lights faded behind him, replaced by the shadows of abandoned factories and broken billboards. The message repeated in his mind like a siren: "If you want to save her, come alone." He had no idea who sent it, but he knew it was connected to the chaos surrounding his fake marriage. Someone wanted to use Maya to get to him. Every mile twisted his chest tighter. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was supposed to be safe, a temporary partner in a PR stunt, nothing more. But now his hands trembled on the steering wheel. He wasn't driving toward a contract. He was driving toward someone he couldn't bear to lose. When he reached the warehouse, the rain had turned to mist. The massive doors stood half open, creaking in the wind. He stepped out, scanning the shadows. "Maya," he called out. His voice echoed through the empty space. No answer, only the faint drip of water from the ceiling. Then a sound, a soft whimper. He turned sharply. Maya was sitting against a steel pillar, her wrists tied, eyes wide with fear but unhurt. Relief flooded him, but it lasted only a second before a voice cut through the silence. Well, the groom shows up after all." From the shadows stepped Leela Harrington, flawless as ever, but her smile was sharp enough to draw blood. Two men flanked her, both holding cameras. "Relax, darling," she said smoothly. "It's just business. You faked a marriage to clean your reputation, so I thought, why not expose the truth and take back what's mine?" Ryan's fists clenched. "You set this up." "Of course," she said, circling him like a predator. "You humiliated me. You made me look desperate. So, I figured a little scandal might remind people who the real victim is." She looked at Maya. "Your little actress here played her part beautifully. Shame she got attached. Untie her, Lila, or what? You'll hit me, ruin your perfect image again." She laughed, a hollow sound that echoed in the empty space. "You don't scare me, Ryan. You never did." Maya's voice was shaky. "Why are you doing this?" Leela knelt in front of her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Because he loved me once. And you're nothing but a temporary fix." Ryan moved forward, his voice low and dangerous. "You have no idea what you've just done." Before she could respond, sirens wailed in the distance. Leela's eyes widened. "You called the cops?" Ryan smirked slightly. "No, but my car has GPS tracking. My assistant knows where I am." Lila cursed under her breath and signaled her men. They bolted for the side exit, leaving Maya tied but unharmed. Ryan rushed to her, cutting the ropes with a piece of metal. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded shakily. "I am now." When the police arrived, Lila was gone, vanished before they could arrest her. The officers questioned them for hours before finally letting them leave. Back in the car, Maya sat in silence, her hands trembling. "I didn't know she'd go that far," Ryan said quietly. "This wasn't supposed to touch you." Maya looked at him, her eyes tired but fierce. "You think this is just about her? You made me a target the moment you made me your wife. Fake or not." Her words hit harder than he expected. The guilt on his face said it all. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. There was nothing he could say that would make it right. That night he drove her to her apartment, but she refused to get out. "It's not safe here," he said. "Stay at the penthouse, please." She looked at him, tears welling up. "You don't get it, Ryan. You created this chaos. You pulled me into your world and then doubted me when it fell apart." "I was wrong," he admitted. "About everything, but I can fix this." Her lips trembled. "Can you?" She stepped out of the car and walked away, leaving him staring after her in the rain. For days, Maya tried to disappear. She stopped answering calls, shut down her social media, and buried herself in work. But the media wouldn't let go. Every tabloid headline twisted the story. Runaway Breegee fake marriage scandal. Ryan Gray's lie exposed. Meanwhile, Ryan's company was under investigation after a fake email claiming financial fraud surfaced online. It was Leela again, playing her final move. His investors began to back away, one by one. The empire he built was crumbling, and the only person who could save him was the woman he'd hurt most. He showed up at her office one night, exhausted, soaked from the rain. She was locking up when she saw him. "Ryan," she whispered, startled. "Don't shut me out, Maya. Please, I need your help." She hesitated. "You don't need me. You need damage control." "No," he said firmly. "I need you." The way he said it, broken, desperate, stopped her in her tracks. She saw the man behind the headlines for the first time, stripped of ego, of armor. They sat in her office for hours. He told her everything: how Leela's lies were dismantling his company, how his lawyers found no proof yet, how his entire team was collapsing under the pressure. And through all of it, Maya listened silently. When he finished, she finally spoke. "You trusted me once because you needed an image. Then you stopped because you got scared of something real." He met her gaze. "And now," she said softly, "I don't know if I can trust you." The silence stretched. Then, unexpectedly, he reached into his coat pocket and slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check for the full payment promised in their contract. "It's over," he said quietly. "The deal. You don't owe me anything, but I owe you peace." Maya looked at it, her throat tight. "You think money fixes this?" "No," he said, "but maybe honesty will." He stood, ready to leave. But before he reached the door, she spoke. "What happens to your company now?" He paused. "I'll figure it out. You'll lose everything if you don't fight back." He turned, a faint, sad smile on his lips. "Maybe that's what I deserve." When he left, Maya sat there staring at the check. Something inside her twisted: anger, guilt, heartbreak, all tangled together. She didn't want his money. She wanted closure. Or maybe something deeper. The next morning, the headlines exploded again, but this time, the story had shifted. Someone had leaked a video of Lila's men holding Maya at the warehouse. The internet erupted with outrage. Sympathy poured in. #Justice for Maya began trending, and Ryan's company stock began to rise again. Maya froze when she saw the clip. There was only one person who could have leaked that video: Ryan. He'd risked his reputation again, not to save himself this time, but to clear her name. She went to his office. It was empty, his desk cleared, his staff gone. A security guard told her he'd resigned that morning. He'd taken full responsibility for mishandling a company crisis, walking away before anyone could fire him. She found him at the same cafe they'd gone to after their fake engagement photo shoot, the one where he'd spilled coffee on his designer suit and laughed for the first time. He sat alone, looking out at the rain. "You leaked the video," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. He didn't deny it. "Someone had to protect you, but it cost you everything." He smiled faintly. "You're worth everything." Her breath caught for a moment. Neither spoke. The cafe was quiet, except for the rain tapping against the windows. "I don't understand you," she said finally. "You build walls around yourself and then tear them down the second someone gets close." He looked at her, eyes tired but honest. "Maybe I just needed someone to see through them." Her heart ached because she did see him, clearer than anyone else ever had. But before either could say more, his phone buzzed. He ignored it, but it buzzed again. Reluctantly, he answered, and his expression changed instantly. "What?" "When?" he demanded, standing abruptly. Maya's chest tightened. "What happened?" He looked at her, face pale. "It's Leela. She's back, and she's suing us both." The room seemed to spin. "For what?" "For fraud. She's claiming the marriage was fake, and that we manipulated public investors." Maya's mind reeled, but it was fake. He met her eyes. "Not anymore." He grabbed her hand, holding it tight. "We'll fight this together." She wanted to believe him. But as the world prepared to tear them apart again, one thought wouldn't leave her mind. Maybe the only real thing they had left was the love they never meant to feel. The courtroom was a battlefield dressed in marble and glass. Reporters filled the hallway outside, microphones flashing like weapons, cameras waiting for blood. Ryan and Maya stepped through the chaos, hand in hand, not because the cameras demanded it this time, but because neither of them could face it alone. Inside, Leela sat at the plaintiff's table in a designer suit, smirking like she'd already won. Her lawyer, a sharp-tongued corporate creditor, shuffled his papers as though savoring the kill to come. Ryan's legal team whispered strategies, but his mind was elsewhere. His company, his reputation, his entire career were on trial. But what terrified him most was the thought of Maya breaking under the pressure. She sat beside him, spine straight, eyes calm, but he could see the way her fingers trembled under the table. He reached for her hand, steadying it. She looked at him, her lips parting slightly, as if she wanted to speak, but the judge's gavel struck, silencing the room. Lila's lawyer stood first. "Your Honor, this case is about deception. My client, Miss Harrington, will prove that Mr. Ryan Gray orchestrated a fraudulent marriage to manipulate investor confidence, increase stock value, and deceive the public." His voice dripped with arrogance. "And this woman," he gestured toward Maya, "was complicit, an actress paid to play the loving wife." Whispers rippled through the courtroom. Maya's stomach twisted. Ryan's lawyer rose calmly. Objection to character defamation. My client's marriage is not on trial for emotional motives but factual evidence. Overruled, the judge said simply. The trial began. Emails, videos, contracts, every scrap of their fake wedding was dragged into the light. The world that once adored them now feasted on their downfall. Ryan's PR-crafted perfection became his biggest weapon turned against him. Leela watched every moment with predatory delight. When she took the stand, she painted herself as the betrayed lover. Her voice quivered at all the right moments, her tears perfectly timed. He humiliated me, she said, glancing toward Ryan with trembling lips. He used me and then flaunted a fake marriage just to hurt me publicly. Ryan clenched his jaw. He wanted to shout, to expose her manipulation, but his lawyer's warning glance held him still. Then it was Maya's turn. As she walked toward the witness stand, flashes from the press outside burst through the glass doors. The room fell silent. Her heart hammered in her chest, but her voice when she finally spoke was steady. Yes, she said, the marriage started as fake, but I never lied about who I was. I didn't do this for fame or money. I did it because I believed it could help someone rebuild what was broken. Lila's lawyer pounced. So you admit to fraud? No, Maya said, looking him dead in the eye. I admit to being human. The courtroom murmured. He tried again. Miss Patel, are you saying you fell in love with your employer during a fake marriage? Maya hesitated, then looked at Ryan. His eyes were locked on her, pleading silently, not for strategy, but for truth. Yes, she said finally. I did. Gasps filled the room. Reporters scribbled furiously. Ryan's heart twisted because that was the moment he realized it too. He loved her. Not the way he'd loved Leela out of ego or image, but in a way that stripped him bare, made him want to be better. The lawyer smirked. So it was a real love story. Then, she smiled faintly. Yes, even if it started as a lie. The judge called a recess. Outside, chaos erupted. Headlines were already spreading. Fake marriage turns. Riel Maya confesses love in court. As they walked into the hallway, Ryan turned to her. You didn't have to say that. I know, she said quietly. But I wanted to. You just gave them more fuel. She met his eyes, or maybe I gave us the truth. For the first time in weeks, he smiled. Small, real, and tired. You're incredible. You know that. She gave a weak laugh. Tell that to my lawyer. The trial dragged on for days. Every night they left the courthouse exhausted, paparazzi flashing, reporters shouting questions. But somewhere in that chaos, something shifted between them, a fragile tenderness beneath the storm. One night, back at her apartment, she found him waiting outside her door. Couldn't sleep, he said simply. Neither could I, she admitted. They sat on the couch, silent for a while. The city outside buzzed, neon lights reflecting off the window. He finally spoke. I used to think love was control, that if you planned it perfectly, it couldn't fall apart. And now, she asked softly, now I know love doesn't ask for control. It asks for courage. Her eyes glistened. You're not bad at this emotional stuff, Mr. Gray. He chuckled lightly. Guess I had a good teacher. They didn't kiss that night. They didn't need to. The air between them was enough, heavy with unspoken truth. But the next morning, the storm hit harder. Lila's team released a new piece of evidence, an edited video of Ryan and Maya signing their fake marriage contract. It looked damning. Within hours, the media declared them guilty in the court of public opinion. Ryan's investors cut ties completely. His bank accounts were frozen. He was forced to sell assets just to pay legal fees. The empire he'd built, the name he'd protected, gone. But through it all, Maya stayed. Why aren't you running? He asked one night, voice hollow. Because you didn't run when I was in danger, she replied simply. Her words hit him like sunlight after a storm. When the verdict finally came, the courtroom was silent. The judge's voice echoed through the tension. Based on evidence presented and the testimonies provided, the court finds insufficient proof of intent to defraud. Ryan closed his eyes, exhaling for the first time in weeks. Leela's face froze in disbelief. The case was dismissed, but the damage was done. The world still saw him as the man who faked a marriage. The company board voted him out. The press crucified him daily, and investors vanished. Ryan Gray, once a symbol of success, was now a cautionary tale. That night, standing on the balcony of her apartment, Maya watched him quietly. He looked at the city below like a man who'd lost everything, yet somehow, he looked lighter. You okay? She asked. He smiled faintly. I'm free. Free from what? From pretending. She stepped closer. So what now? He looked at her eyes softer than she'd ever seen. Now, I start over. With or without the world believing in me. She tilted her head. And with or without me, he hesitated, then whispered, I'm not starting over if you're not there. Her breath caught. For a moment, the noise of the city disappeared. She reached for his hand, and this time there was no pretending. Weeks passed. Life slowly began to rebuild. Maya reopened her event business. Ryan began consulting for startups, quietly rebuilding his life. They kept their relationship private, not for fear of headlines, but to protect something fragile, something real. One evening, as they walked by the pier, Ryan handed her a small envelope. What's this? She asked. He smiled. Proof of how real we are. Inside was a photograph their wedding day, the one where they'd faked every smile. Except this photo was different. In it, captured between flashes and chaos, there was a split second his eyes looking at her like he meant it, her lips caught in a laugh that wasn't rehearsed. She stared at it, eyes misting. "You kept this." "I didn't mean to," he said softly, "but I couldn't throw it away." She tucked the photo into her bag, unable to stop smiling. "So what now, husband?" she teased. He laughed. "You're never letting me live that down, are you?" Not a chance. But as they walked hand in hand, a camera clicked in the distance unnoticed. The next morning the photo went viral. Not because of scandal, but because someone, somewhere, wrote the caption. Maybe the wedding was fake, but the way they look at each other isn't. It spread like wildfire. People began to root for them again. Not as a PR couple, not as a brand, but as two people who found love in the most unexpected place. And for the first time since it all began, Maya smiled at a headline instead of fearing it. But the story wasn't over yet, because just when life finally seemed calm, a familiar name reappeared in the news. Lila Harrington. She wasn't done. A new scandal was brewing, one that could destroy them both again. The morning news hit like an explosion. Lila Harrington announces tell-all documentary, the truth behind Ryan and Maya's fake marriage. Every major network was covering it. Clips of her interviews flooded social media, Lila teary-eyed, calling herself the real victim of manipulation. Ryan and Maya watched in silence as the TV blared across their living room. Her voice oozed poison wrapped in sweetness. "They built a relationship on lies," she told the host. "They fooled investors, fans, everyone. But trust me, I have proof. This so-called love story is just another performance." Maya muted the TV, her pulse pounding. "She's not stopping until we're ruined." Ryan ran a hand through his hair, jaw clenched. "She's desperate for relevance. But she's not getting it from us." "Ryan," Maya said softly, "the public believes her. They always do. She knows how to twist every word." He looked at her then, eyes tired but burning. "Then we tell our story, our way. This time we control the truth." But it wasn't that simple. Within hours, the internet turned toxic again. Trolls flooded their profiles, calling Maya a gold digger, a fraud, a liar. Businesses began pulling out of partnerships linked to Ryan. And then came the worst blow, the leaked bank statements. Lila had somehow obtained records of the original payment Ryan promised Maya for their fake marriage contract. Out of context, it looked damning, like she'd been paid to love him. The world didn't see what came after, the truth that she never cashed the final check, that she stayed not for money, but for him. Maya's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Journalists camped outside their building, even her family began receiving threats. One evening she turned off her phone completely and sat by the window watching the rain smear across the glass. "I should go," she whispered. Ryan froze. "Go where?" "Anywhere. Away from this chaos. Away from you, Maya. You don't deserve this again, Ryan. I'm just a reminder of everything that went wrong." He stepped closer, voice breaking. "Don't you dare say that. You're the only thing that's kept me from falling apart." Her eyes filled, but she turned away. "Love doesn't fix everything." "No," he said quietly, "but it's the only thing real we've got left." That night she didn't sleep. She packed a small bag and stood by the door for hours until dawn broke and the first light hit his face as he slept on the couch, exhausted from the night's storm of calls and messages. She couldn't do it. She put the bag down. The next morning, Ryan was already awake, brewing coffee like nothing happened. He didn't mention the bag. He just handed her a mug and said, "We'll face her together." Days turned into weeks. The documentary's release date drew closer. Lila teased clips online. One in particular went viral. In it, she said, "They think they're in love, but wait until they see what I found." Ryan's legal team panicked. "She's bluffing," one of them said. But Maya wasn't so sure. 2 nights before the premiere, a USB drive arrived at their doorstep with no note, just a small silver keychain shaped like a wedding ring. Ryan plugged it into his laptop. The video file was titled, "The Real Marriage Contract." As the footage played, Maya's stomach dropped. It was their contract meeting recorded secretly, from a different angle. The audio was clear. Ryan's voice, 6 months, you'll play the wife. I'll handle the press. Payment after completion. Her own nervous laugh. So basically, we lied to the world. It was worse than any edit Leela had ever done because this one was real. Ryan slammed the laptop shut, running a hand over his face. She must have had someone on my team record it. Maya's eyes filled with panic. Ryan, if that airs, I know. His voice was tight. She destroy us completely. He stood, pacing, trying to think. But Maya could see the fear in his eyes. Not fear of losing money or image this time, but fear of losing her. That night, he called his lawyer. Can we stop the release? The answer was grim. Not without proof she obtained the footage illegally. And by the time we do that, the world will already have seen it. Maya sat beside him. Maybe we don't stop it. He turned, stunned. What, let her show it? Let them see the truth, all of it. He frowned. You're talking about total exposure. I'm talking about freedom. No more lies. No more PR strategies. Just us. Her voice shook, but her eyes were fierce. You said, love asks for courage, remember? Then let's be brave now. He stared at her, the woman who once signed a contract to pretend, now standing stronger than anyone he'd ever known. The night of the documentary premiere, Leela walked the red carpet in shimmering gold, flashing her perfect smile for every camera. The truth will finally come out, she told reporters. No more lies. But what she didn't know, Ryan and Maya had already beaten her to it. Hours earlier, they'd uploaded their own video to YouTube titled, Our Truth. It opened with Maya sitting beside Ryan on their couch, no makeup, no filters, no script. We faked a marriage, she said directly to the camera. We did it for all the wrong reasons, but somewhere in between pretending and surviving, it became real. Ryan took her hand. We hurt people, we lied, but we also fell in love. Not for headlines, not for image, but because we saw each other when the world saw only lies. They didn't defend themselves. They didn't attack Leela. They just told their story honestly. Within hours, the video exploded. Millions watched. People commented things like, finally. Honesty in a world of fakes, and you can't fake the way they look at each other. Even celebrities began reposting it, calling it raw and brave. By the time Leela's documentary aired that night, the world had already chosen sides. Hers was the story of bitterness, theirs, redemption. But she wasn't done. The next morning, a message appeared on Ryan's phone, a private number again. You think the world loves you now? Wait till they see what's next. Attached was a single photo, Maya at a cafe, sitting across from another man, smiling. The timestamp made it look recent. Ryan's chest tightened. He recognized the man, an old client of Maya's, one she'd been working with before the wedding chaos began. He wanted to believe it was innocent. But after everything, trust wasn't something that came easily. When Maya walked into the apartment that evening, he didn't speak. He just handed her the phone. What is this? Her brows furrowed. What do you mean? This picture? When was this taken? She looked at it, and her face went pale. Ryan, this is months old. Before the wedding. Leela says it's recent. Her voice cracked. And you believe her? The silence cut deeper than any shout could. He closed his eyes, realizing too late that he'd let doubt win again. But she was already walking toward the door. I can't keep proving myself to someone who keeps forgetting who I am, she said, voice breaking. You said you trusted me. I believed you, Maya. Wait. She stopped, tears glistening. No, you wait. Maybe this time you'll see what you're losing before it's gone. The door closed behind her, the sound echoing through the apartment like a final goodbye. Ryan stood there, hollow. The phone buzzed again, another message from the same number. This time just one line. If you want her back, meet me tonight. Same place as before, the warehouse. He didn't hesitate. By the time he reached it, rain was falling again, just like that night months ago. The building was dark except for a single light flickering inside. He stepped in, calling out her name. Maya. No answer. Then, suddenly, a figure stepped from the shadows. Lila again, but this time different. No cameras, no entourage, just her, holding a phone. Where is she? He demanded. Lila smiled coldly. Safe, for now. What do you want? Simple. I want what you took, my spotlight, my story. You think people love you. I can take that away in a heartbeat. Where is she? Lila's smile widened. She's fine, but if you ever want to see her again, you'll end this little love fairy tale on camera. Right here, right now. You'll tell the world she used you. Ryan's fists tightened. I'd rather lose everything. Then you will, she hissed. Suddenly, a voice came from behind them. He's not the liar here, Lila. Maya stepped into the light, holding her phone, recording everything. Lila's face went white. You go ahead, Maya said calmly. Tell him again how you were going to fake my kidnapping for sympathy. Lila froze. Ryan realized what was happening. Maya had set her up. She'd traced the messages, guessed Lila's move, and come early to catch her in the act. Seconds later, police sirens wailed outside. Lila's eyes darted toward the sound. You think this changes anything? She spat. Maya's voice was steady. No, it ends everything. The officer stormed in, arresting Leela as she screamed that it wasn't over. But deep down, everyone knew it was. When it was finally quiet, Ryan turned to Maya, his voice trembling. You came back. She smiled faintly. I never really left. I just wanted you to believe in me again. He stepped closer, his hand brushing her cheek. I do more than anything. The tension broke. Their lips met. No cameras, no crowd, no contracts. Just two people who had fought too hard, for too long, to keep pretending it wasn't real. Outside, the rain kept falling, washing away the lies that once bound them. But just as they walked out together, hand in hand, Maya's phone buzzed with one last message from an unknown number. She wasn't working alone. The message glowed on Maya's screen like a ghost that refused to die. She wasn't working alone. Ryan leaned closer, reading the words twice. The warehouse was now empty, police lights fading in the distance, but the air still crackled with leftover tension. Who sent this? Maya whispered. Ryan shook his head. The numbers new. Blocked again. He took her hand. Steady but tight. We can trace it tomorrow. Tonight, you're safe. That's all that matters. But sleep was impossible. Even after everything, both lay awake, replaying every moment in silence. Leela had gone too far. Fake stories, threats, nearly a staged kidnapping. Yet someone had been feeding her, protecting her, maybe even funding her. Morning brought another headline storm. Every news outlet ran footage of Lila's arrest, and the video Maya recorded had gone viral overnight. #Justice for Ryan and Maya was trending worldwide. Sponsors began calling again, not to cut ties but to offer deals. Public sympathy had shifted completely. They were no longer the fraud couple. They were survivors of manipulation. But Ryan didn't care about interviews or image anymore. He only cared about one thing, truth. And now a new shadow hovered behind it. Later that day, his lawyer Andrew called. "Ryan, there's something you need to see." "What is it?" "The footage that leaked, it didn't come from Leela's team. The metadata shows it originated inside your company. Someone close, very close, gave it to her." Ryan froze. "Who?" Andrew hesitated. "We're still checking. But the transfer came from an encrypted device registered under a former employee, David Cross." Ryan's chest tightened. David wasn't just any employee. He'd been Ryan's right hand, his strategist, his friend. "He left right before the fake marriage became public," Ryan said slowly. Andrew sighed. "Looks like he didn't leave empty-handed." Maya stepped forward. "Who is he?" Ryan looked at her, guilt flickering in his eyes. "The one who convinced me to do the fake marriage in the first place." Her face hardened. "So this all started because of him?" "Yeah," Ryan muttered. "And apparently it's not over." That evening, Ryan tracked David down. The man was working for a rival PR firm now, one that had recently been promoting Leela's projects. When Ryan walked into his office unannounced, David's smirk said it all. "Well, if it isn't the comeback king himself," he said, leaning back casually. "What do I owe the visit?" Ryan dropped a copy of the message on the desk. "You were working with her." David raised an eyebrow. "With Leela? That's a stretch. I have proof." "Then use it." Ryan leaned in, voice cold. "You leaked the footage. You fed her everything, but why?" David smiled, tapping his pen. "Because you never deserved any of it. You had the company, the fame, the girl, all because of lies. I just gave truth a louder mic." Ryan's jaw clenched. "You destroyed lives." David shrugged. "Collateral damage besides. The chaos made both of you famous. You should be thanking me." Before Ryan could respond, Maya stepped in from behind him, her eyes fierce. "You think what you did was power? You just showed the world who you really are. Someone so small he needs to break others to feel seen." David's smirk faltered for the first time. "Cute speech," he said. "But none of this changes anything. People love drama. They'll move on soon enough. And when they do, your story will fade." Ryan stared at him for a long moment. "Maybe. But not this time. Because for once, the truth isn't something you can spin." He turned and walked out, Maya following, leaving David sitting in his own silence. By the time they stepped outside, the sky had turned golden. Maya looked at Ryan, her voice softer now. "So what happens next?" He exhaled. "We rebuild, but this time, no lies, no contracts, no PR games, just us." A faint smile touched her lips. "That sounds terrifying." He laughed quietly. "Good. That means it's real." Weeks passed. The chaos slowly settled. Lila's documentary deal was cancelled. David faced a lawsuit, and Ryan's company returned stronger than ever. Not because of strategy, but because people now believed in his story. But more importantly, he and Maya began living again, truly living. No cameras following their every move, no fake smiles for the press. They started traveling small towns, quiet places where nobody recognized them. They'd wake up early, drink coffee by the window, and talk about the future like it finally belonged to them. One evening while walking along a coastal boardwalk, Ryan stopped suddenly. Maya turned, puzzled. "What?" He smiled, nervous for the first time in months. "You know, for someone who faked a marriage, I never actually got to propose properly." Her breath caught as he dropped to one knee. No photographers, no spotlight, just the setting sun behind him and the sound of waves. "Maya, this time there's no script, no cameras, no audience, just you. Will you marry me for real this time?" Tears spilled instantly. She nodded, unable to speak. He slipped the ring on her finger, and for the first time, everything felt right. But just as she hugged him, her phone buzzed again, the same unknown number. "Congratulations. See you at the wedding." Her body went cold. Ryan noticed her expression shift. "What's wrong?" She showed him the screen. His face hardened. "It's them again." He called Andrew. "Track this number now." Minutes later, Andrew texted back. "Number traces to a media firm in London. Guess who recently bought shares? David Cross." Ryan exhaled sharply. "He's not done." Maya looked up, trembling. "What if he tries to twist our wedding too?" Ryan took her hand. "Then we turn the lens ourselves. We tell our story before anyone else does, like we always have." And so they did. Months later, when their real wedding took place, it wasn't a grand celebrity event. It was intimate, by the ocean, surrounded by only a handful of people who mattered. No press invites, no brand deals, just love. But the twist, they live-streamed it themselves, not as a show, but as a statement. Maya looked straight into the camera before walking down the aisle. This time, she said softly, "nothing is fake." Millions tuned in not for the glam but for the honesty. The comment section overflowed. We watched them fall, fight, and rise again. This is what real love looks like, messy but true. You can't script this kind of emotion. As Ryan placed the ring on her finger, he whispered, "No more contracts, only promises." She smiled through tears. Forever this time. The crowd cheered. Somewhere maybe David watched from his glass office, seething that his schemes had only made their story stronger. But the world didn't care any more about the scandals. They cared about them. After the ceremony, Ryan and Maya disappeared from the spotlight completely. They moved into a quiet home by the coast, built something small but meaningful, a foundation that helped young creators navigate media manipulation. They didn't chase fame anymore. Fame had chased them once, and they'd learned how quickly it turns to fire. What lasted wasn't the noise, but the quiet moments, shared laughter over burnt pancakes, holding hands during storms, waking up beside the same person who had once been just a business deal. Years later, when a journalist finally tracked them down for an anniversary interview, Maya just smiled. "You want a headline," she said. "Here it is. The fake marriage became the truest thing we ever did." And that became the title of her best-selling book. The wedding was fake, but the love was real. The final page read, "In a world full of filters and contracts, sometimes the most genuine love begins with a lie and survives because two people finally choose truth."